Welcome back. I'm your host, Sabrina, and today we really want to talk about your story because everyone has a story, and even you don't think you have one to tell. And your unique story position you as the specialty doctor, APPs, nurses to best serve your patients, your team, and everyone around you. And for some of us, we choose to be speaking or become a publisher. And how do you craft your unique story and how do you share so people just not to say, oh, I'm another author, but truly making differences in the messages in your teaching. And that's why I invited our lovely and inspirational Adriana here, and she started AMA Publishing and trained a global network of female-owned publishing house. She's a USA Today best-selling author and has been seen in Forbes Entrepreneurs, Huffington Post, International Living, American Daily Post, London Daily Post, and Great Daily. She's living in the middle of nowhere, Colorado, where she is renovating her grandparents' home and learning how to be homestead with her husband, Derek, and two sons, Sam and Grant. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Sabrina. It's great to be here.
Yes, the two of us kind of clicked by networking. And I think one thing that we tend to forget is networking is not a chore. It's actually how we can attract the best people to us and how do we share. And that also go into whatever is that mission that you do. So I would love to for you to share your story with our healthcare professionals. Where did it all start and why choosing publishing and really showing people's best self in books and become a publishing house?
Well, this is a great question. And truthfully, my start was a long way from business and publishing. I was a small town girl who wanted nothing more than to see the world. And so both sides of my family are from here, 5 generations deep. And they just didn't leave. They're very, they're anchor people, they're roots people. But I wanted to see the world. And so when I graduated from high school, I was that straight A student overachiever who chose not to go to college, who chose not to do the traditional route. And I went overseas as a volunteer in my 20s. And it opened my eyes to see how many people live, because it's so easy to think everyone is just like me. Everyone has my life. Everyone has my family. Everywhere, when you go flip a switch on the wall, lights come on. And what I learned is that wasn't true. And so it was those years that I traveled solo as a volunteer that I actually began to identify my true values. What did I want my life to look like? And so when I returned to the US, I knew a few things for sure. I wanted a slow, rich life. I was not interested in the rat race. I was not interested in working 24 hours a day and accumulating things that didn't actually matter. And so I ended up meeting my husband on a blind date. We started a business, and every single thing we've done, we've just asked the question, what do we have that could support someone else, that could make their path a little bit easier, help them get where they want to go? And what we quickly learned is that every single business owner we worked with had this dream of writing a book, and yet they were completely overwhelmed with the traditional publishing process. So that's when I decided I love making things that are complex simple. And I began to create strategies and ways that we could make it different and make it better. And the number one thing that I realized is that with traditional publishing, we're waiting for someone else to say we're good enough, to say, yes, we would like your story. And what I began to lean into was self-publishing that says, no, you actually say yes to yourself. You get to decide and give yourself permission to share what matters to you so that you can leave something to the next generation.
That is so well said. We all have our life lessons, and all these micro dosing of experiences are valuable, but some of us don't even know how do we put all that. Can people really relate to that? Is it good enough? Or some people just say, okay, fine, I'm blocking off 2 months and just write, And once I finish, I'm hoping someone will pick up this book, and that will become a bestseller. Instead, your way of seeing, we don't need to wait for someone else to validate us. We have to just validate ourselves, knowing each of those stories matters. And then if we don't share, that's doing a disservice for those people who you truly wanted to change their lives and make things aligned. And I do see that many speakers coming onto the show who are speakers and authors, and some of them end up hiring these big PR agencies and doing all this work once their book is published. Right? Even you have contracted out with a big publisher. So I would love to hear from your perspective, instead of the hassle we sometimes think about writing a book. I feel like when I wrote the book that I had, it was great because it was collaborative work. And therefore, again, when we talk about to networking, we had 18 of us women who put together a book. And then my second book is coming out too. And it just a different way of, as you were saying, self-publishing. So what are some of the benefits of becoming your own publishing house versus hiring a publishing company, whether to do the self-publishing or connecting to these bigger companies, feeling like, okay, then maybe once I'm hands off, get the best people on it, then everything will just take care of itself. What's the pros and cons?
This is a good question. And what I would say is that publishing, traditional publishing, has changed so much that oftentimes the concept that we hold in our minds of, if I can just get an agent, if I can just get a publishing house to pick up my book, they will take care of everything and it will sell millions of copies and I'll make lots of money and I'll be well known and people will, hear my message. That world doesn't exist anymore. Publishing houses, unless somebody already has a following in the millions, they don't take care of everything and they never will. And so sometimes we have to get out of fantasy and into reality. This is actually what it looks like right now in traditional publishing. So what I would say for the person who is dreaming about someone doing it all for them and making it all happen, that is actually not the life of an author these days. Authors actually need to be incredibly committed to cultivating and creating a community that follows them, that's not actually following a publishing house. So that's the first thing I would say. And actually, while it can feel like, oh, I don't think I want to take that on, or that's a lot of work, it's actually the much better route. Because number one, we develop and we figure out really what we're about. What is my mission and my message? And we have a much stronger bond with our readers, with our audience and our followers. In terms of once you have realized, okay, that's not happening. I think depending on how much time someone has, they can decide if they want to start their own publishing house and do that for themselves, or if they want to have a self-publishing or hybrid like an indie publisher support them. And same thing there, I would say there are things that they will handle. Just as an example, we'll handle formatting your book or getting it up on Amazon, picking categories. And yet there are things that we will say, no one can do this as well as you can. And in those times, really taking that opportunity to lead the way. So what I would tell people is it's really more of a co-creation than a let me pass this off. But I also love what you brought up, is this idea of collaboration. Some of my favorite books that we produce, some that are right here, are collaboration, because instead of it being an overwhelming process, it can be lighter. And also in the process, I get to know some amazing people who I didn't know before. So that's one of my favorite bonuses is getting to meet new people and figuring out how we can support each other.
Yes, it's so true. When you're in a collaboration work, we're tapping into each other's network, each other's resources. So when you book is finally out or launch day, right? I remember when I launched my book last year, we already have so many speaking engagement lined up because we are part of different organizations. So we're just simply, oh, who's available? Let's chat about this and to put your work forward, because each collaborator in those books usually have a common theme, but all from different perspective, different career background. And that's how true collaboration exists, is on how do we share time, how do we share our talent resources, or how do I share our own high-level network, right? These are three main things. And then from a publishing, I correct me if I'm wrong, I believe media PR in general is about relationship, and how do you create these relationship with people that you don't know to get on these different platforms to share the message, because we also need to know these platforms to align with what we are doing, with the people that we want to help, and stop doing a lot. What I see people tend to do is like, oh, I got a book out, let me just speak everywhere. But they're not your people, so they're not going to respond either.
Such a good point. Being dedicated to our people and knowing where do they hang out, what do they care about, what publications do they read, where are the places that they engage and interact. This is really key, because if I'm focused strictly on my people, I'm going to have a much higher percentage of those people engage with me, interact with me, do business with me, refer me, create cross promotional opportunities. Whereas if I'm just getting out everywhere without being more intentional, I'm going to find that it will actually be frustrating. And I think this is why some people get discouraged. They go, I did all these things and nothing came of it. And this is where we get to go, no, let's be more particular about the kinds of people and the places where we are bringing our message.
Correct. And I believe that's part of our marketing and branding ourselves. Branding, for we know how do we present ourselves in this unique way, and then who do we speak to? For example, I'm in the career, and our audience listening are healthcare practice owners, healthcare leaders. And so they already have a career path that they dedicated themselves, but then it wanted to be elevating themselves in a different light. So then that's why they wanted to publish a book in that field. One of my friends who I'll be interviewing soon is a surgeon that realizing he doesn't want to people to become on his table anymore. So he wanted to be someone who's a beacon to say, actually, metabolic health need to be changed. So he become an author for that. So these mission-driven things, then is what we needed to be able to speak on shows that align with that message. That means nutrition, health. So, and then it's not just all nutrition and health wellness podcast. It's like, who is he wanted to work with? Oh, the larger corporate leaders and their team, because that's so much a bigger specific way. And we all know probably 20 or even 10% of your employees that was the most comorbidity is going to be the most costly. So how about we create different system to support those, right? Just like how we interact with any of our patients. Probably the 20% of people that we ever see will continue to come back to us and continue to needing support. And that's okay. We need to be able to serve them. And what are something that you feel like people haven't even thought about when they become that self-publishing author? What are some of the things, maybe mistakes that you see people have done?
Because taking on a book is such a big endeavor. And really what we realize is that we grow personally, we grow professionally, and we have to organize our knowledge, our experiences. And so it is a pretty intense experience when you take on an entire book. What I find that many people do, because it does ask of their time and their energy and their focus, is that when they're finished writing the book, they think they're finished. And that's actually the starting point. I like to relate it to pregnancy. When you're pregnant for 9 months, you might experience a whole new things you never did before. You might be tired. You're going to gain weight. You're going to experience your body in a whole new way. And there's all this buildup and talk and anticipation. And so when we deliver the baby, that's not the end, right? It's the very beginning. Oh, now the real work as a mother begins. And when we finish our book, the real work as an author begins. And so what I would recommend is knowing this and becoming aware of it from the beginning so that you can create a plan. Most people, they need a victory lap. They need a little bit of rest. They need a break, and they might need to have some timelines or I call them goal posts set out. So, hey, you know what? You get to take a breather. And then this is what it's going to look like to market the book, to share the book, to get on speaking engagements, to do podcasts, whatever it might be, to create a course that corresponds to the book. But I think this is where most people get caught. They think they're finished when they're actually beginning.
Right. I do hear other people sharing that worry with me too. Some of the clients would say, what is this? We're doing all this work and then what? And maybe at the end of the day, actually, people don't understand what a book is doing for them because they just jump in thinking, oh, if I'm a best-selling author, then I have the credibility, I have the authority. That's not it. What do you actually want to do and show for this, right? Before we jump into anything, that has to be a long-term of vision and not just I published it, I can sell the book, especially as you're saying, that's not gonna just happen because a lot of people, a lot of authors are start to coming out, which is great, which is amazing. We can share our knowledges. However, how are you making yourself stand out in that unique ability, right? And I believe that's why we even say pick the shows that actually have your audience. If you only wanted to talk about corporate people, don't go on shows that are for small business entrepreneurs, and they're not going to connect with you, right? It's not going to be the same effect. And what are some things that you feel like people should definitely pay attention and do more of once the book is out?
And I love what you brought up because it's easy for us to get into this shiny syndrome, right? This is shiny. Oh, this is what other people are doing. And we get caught up in those I call them microwave moments, but it's actually not where the real work is, and it's not where the fulfillment is. It's not where the results are. So what I would recommend is actually pulling yourself out of this. There's nothing about a quick title, just checking something off the list. And overachievers tend to do that. It's one of our downfalls. We have something that we want to achieve, we check it off the list, and we charge on to the next thing. And so what I encourage people to do is, like you said, actually ask themselves, what do I want to happen as a result of me writing this book? How many people's lives do I want to change? What will actually feel like success for me? It's not just the title of best-selling author. And I would say 99% of the time. So number one, get clear on what is that? What does the end look like? And then understand, just like anything, there's going to be weekly, monthly, quarterly habits, actions, activities, interactions, conversations that are going to lead you where you want to go. And what I would say is don't go it alone. You don't ever want to market and promote a book by yourself. One of the best things I did when I wrote my first book, and I will say I feel like I was sort of in that beginner's luck category, but I knew instinctively that I needed other people to help me. And so I had 50 people help me with my book launch. Those were 50 people who were going to share it with their audience, send an email, put me on their podcast, bring me in as a guest speaker to some group that they had. And that is what it looks like. You can do addition, you can work alone, you can be that lone wolf, or you can bring others in and make it so much more dynamic.
That's so true. I believe I did a similar way. Well, when I publish, I already have 17 other women who's there supporting me, right? Since we're going through the journey together. But I also personally reach out to friends, whether it's on social media or by email, by text, by phone, to share my excitement and share the mission of that book and ask them, do you mind posting it or telling people about it and providing them with a short description of that book or even a caption with a photo of the book, and they most likely going to support you. And if we don't ask, we never know what the result is.
It's true. If we don't ask, we can never receive. And that's what I found as well. Almost every single person said, absolutely, I would love to help.
Yes, because we're in the place and the universe of we always wanted to give. And that's why if you think about it, any service type provider, especially in medicine, you got into this field because we wanted to serve. We wanted to have that change. We want to have that creation. So when people are actually doing something a little bit differently than their traditional way, we actually see that as, wow, this is interesting. I'm proud of you. I'm going to be very tiny, small percentage of people's like, oh my gosh, right? And then that's okay because those people are vampires, energy suckers that you needed to get rid of. And we needed to be really truthful about keeping the most energized support system strong so we continue to move forward with momentum. And one thing is in publishing, and one thing is running your own service in how you deal with your team, how you deal with your patients as well. And all together with that book, what's the end result, right? When it comes down to it, is it really about selling X amount of copy, or is it really about getting message out there for X amount of podcast speaking engagement, or is it just I have an additional resource for my existing patients for them to take home to discuss with their family, to have more of open conversation about the most common problems we're seeing. So I definitely love it, this conversation on like really truly understand what's the purpose of even wanting to be publishing, right? You can be very successful, but it's really from the beginning to the end and doesn't feel like it's a sprint. It's simply we can take on collaborations and also hire yourself a VA. If you don't know how, I have plenty of great people that can help you, right? Can refer you to different companies that you can talk to. And that's how we elevate. It's not all about we have to do everything. We just need to understand our process and direction.
100%, 100%. This is the beauty of being a visionary and a leader, is that you understand what you're best at, and you are willing to connect and bring in those who are the best at what they do. And together, what can you achieve? What can you create?
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. Perfect set. And at the time, everybody need to grow. And it's okay. You are step 10 versus someone else is at step 20. And don't compare your step 10 with their 20, right? It's not their life, is not your life. And it's okay. And sometimes we feel like we need to be perfect in everything. And that's too tiresome. That's not human.
Thank
And
you.
right. And why would you want it to get to that point, right? Like, or people can say, I strive for it. Great, you strive for it. But if you don't have it, we should still be able to reflect on what do we have that we can already tap into. And that's the one reason I asked our speakers to do a quick whole life assessment on when you see all your 10 different key component of life, where are you at? Where can you leverage on more? And where can you elevate more? So Adriana, when you saw your life bill, what was something that popped into your head?
You know, there were two things, and really they're connected. is right now socially I am having a different experience than I have my whole life. I'm extremely extroverted. I'm the person who hosts the parties, who initiates the hey, let's all get together and do this, or let's go on an adventure. And just the way the world has shifted, and we moved from being full-time travelers, being in a new Airbnb every 3 months and constantly meeting new friends and neighbors, to putting our roots down, moving back to Colorado, and literally being in the middle of nowhere. When people ask me, "Oh, are you near Denver?" I say, "Oh, honey, no. I'm like 8 hours from Denver. I'm 7 hours from Phoenix. I'm between two towns. One is 7,000 and one's 1,000." So it's literally, I got two kids, a husband, German shepherds, and cats, and I'm looking around going, "Oh, wait a second, right? I need people. I need a party." And so this is the part that I'm developing and really going, okay, how do I create experiences and friendships, like you said, that celebrate who I am, that align with who I am, and that I can contribute something to. And right along with that, I find that my life mission is shifting, because all the major things that I have held in front of me have also shifted. My number one goal in life, I told you at the beginning, was to see the world, to travel the world, to provide that for my children. And so what travel looks like now is different. So I'm shifting. Also, because of where my business is and how mature it is and how stable it is, I get to look at, well, what more do I want to create in my legacy beyond what I do in my business? My business, I actually find, is not the only way I want to create a legacy. Right now, I'm working on growing enough food to provide food for my entire extended family. So, life purpose, life mission, relationships, these are in flux. And it's actually, I will say, I swing between, oh my God, what am I doing? To this is the most exciting time in my life. And so it's a fun place to be, because there's tension and there's also tremendous possibility.
That's amazing. I think that's one thing you pick out right there is tension, possibility, yet a little bit of, oh my gosh. I think most people forget is it's not about creating all these smart goals that are doable, that's measurable, right? That's a one way. But what are we missing is it has to feel that wow, there's endless possibility. I'm excited about it. There's some kind of emotional tie to it. Otherwise, no matter how doable it seems, you're still not going to do it or do it in a way to create the bigger changes that truly create that life mission that you wanted. So thank you so much for sharing that and showing your awesomeness, your authenticity. I know people who are writing a book, who are about to publish or have already published, going to have more questions and then wanted to connect with you to see how they can elevate themselves as an author. So how can people find you?
Mm. They can find me at my website, which is my full name. Also, almaspeaks.com. We have resources there for those who are interested.
Perfect. Any last words to share before we wrap up today?
Mm. Well, I want to thank you for having me and for highlighting the power of stories. This is really how we connect to people. And I have a mentor who always says, once you know someone's story, once they know your story, you're never strangers again.
Wow, thank you so much for that. Like, let's not be strangers. Let's be truly connected. Let's play into relationship economics and share your story, your talent, your knowledges in the way that connect with the right people. And that's how we become more efficient in what we're doing with less time. Thank you for being here and thanks for listening in. Whether you're watching this live on any of our platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, or listening this podcast, we'd love to hear your feedback. How can we continue to support you? What are the biggest takeaways from today, or something you're just like, bing, wow, that's a really good point. And we would love to hear from you. And anything else that you might want to tap into, leave a review on iTunes to support the show to continue to grow and also for us to continue to provide you additional amazing complimentary contents. Until next time, bye bye.